Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us at the G20 Global Land Initiative for this very special webinar. We'll give it another 30 seconds or so before we get started. Thank you. So good morning, afternoon, and evening. Welcome to this gathering with the G20 Global Land Initiative. My name is Gopal Patel, and I serve as a faith policy consultant with the G20 GLI, and I'll be moderating our session today. This is the first of two sessions we're hosting at the Global Land Initiative over the course of today and tomorrow. Today, we are launching a groundbreaking stocktake report, the most comprehensive assessment to date of how faith communities worldwide are engaging with land restoration. This report shows not only the remarkable work faith groups are doing around the world to address critical gaps, not only shows the incredible work faith groups are doing around the world, but also highlights the critical gaps in funding, technical support, and coordination that limit their collective impact. During this session, we'll hear from a range of respected faith leaders and representatives on the importance of land restoration. We'll learn about the work they're doing and chart a path forward towards the UN CCD COP17 taking place in Mongolia next year. And then tomorrow, we have a very special masterclass session where we'll be sharing practical tools and frameworks for how to establish, scale, and grow your own land restoration projects. The session tomorrow will be led by my colleague, Tariq Al-Olaimi, and from the G20 GLI, and also colleagues from WWF Beliefs and Values Initiative. Doing this work is important, and as we'll see in the report, it's important because faith actors are key if we are to meet our global targets on land restoration. And we also know that land is central if we are to address the climate and the biodiversity crisis. But today is about leadership, vision, and building the interfaith collaboration that is needed that can transform our collective potential into measurable restoration impact. And we are so delighted you are joining us today. To start things off, I'm delighted to welcome Murali Durumudagudi, who is the director of the G20 Global Land Initiative, to share a few words. Murali, thank you for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Gopal. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you who are joining today for this important event. We are hoping to have this done in person in London in November, but unfortunately, due to factors beyond our control, we could not do it. But this is the second best we can do. Many of you are already familiar with the Global Land Initiative. But for those who are not yet familiar, the Global Land Initiative was launched in November 2020, during the Saudi Arabian presidency of the G20. The overall objective of the initiative is to achieve 50% reduction in degraded land by 2040. Our estimate shows that this translates to about 1 billion hectare of land to be restored. And such land could be agricultural land, it could be range land, it could be wetland, it could be forest, or it could be even in urban areas. But 1 billion hectares, that is a lot of land. That's the size of the United States or China. Now, to achieve this level of restoration, we would need to work with all segments of the society. We have a comprehensive plan which we developed in 2022 to achieve this massive target. We need to have new legislation coming up in countries. So we have a program only with the parliamentarians to sensitize them to the question of land restoration and come out with legislation similar to the EU restoration law. We want to build capacity at scale. We want to go to universities and train hundreds of thousands of young graduates on land restoration. But then we also want to reach community, and that too at scale. And that's why faith is such an important element of our strategy. Faith, as you know, interact with the land in multiple ways. All faith have some association at a philosophical level with land as humans being the stewards of land. Faith has tremendous influence over those who follow their beliefs, and therefore both ordinary people as well as leaders can be influenced through faith on land restoration action or preventing land degradation. Faith has tremendous number of educational institutions through which millions of students or even tens of millions of students are passing through, so they can be sensitized through that. Faith has access to other institutions. Faith has access to land. So there are all number of reasons we want to work with faith. Over the past year and a half, Tariq and Gopal, under the guidance of Joanne, has been undertaking this important work. We had a roundtable here in Bonn, probably a year before or a year and a half before, to discuss how we can collectively work on this topic. And a number of actions came out of it, including a faith stock take, which will be presented today. I'm delighted that we have a large group of faith actors in the room today. Many of them I had the pleasure to work with the Heartfulness Institute from Hyderabad, Anita, and many others. Many others I look forward to meeting. And tomorrow we'll have more a capacity building type of work. And the work will continue. This is just a start. We look forward to collaborating with you, both at conceptual level as well as an operational level, so that we can together achieve more land restoration and prevent degradation of land, which, as Gopal mentioned, has not just implication on land, but also on climate change and biodiversity. I want to thank my colleague Joanne and the consultants for leading this work and wish a very good session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Murali, for those kind words and really setting the stage for why this work is so important, and your leadership and the leadership of the whole G20 Global Land Initiative over the last 1.5 to 2 years as we've been building out this program. So as I mentioned at the top, today we are launching a groundbreaking report engaging faith groups on land restoration, the most comprehensive report to date, showcasing what faith groups are doing at a grassroots level all across the world on land restoration. And so I'm going to share my screen now and show the key highlights from this report. Can we all see that? Great, excellent. So as mentioned, this report is called Engaging Faith Groups on Land Restoration. It is a G20 Global Land Initiative stocktake report, the most comprehensive report of its kind to date. I won't go over this slide, as Molly mentioned, but the G20's targets by 2040 is to reduce degraded land by 50%. And as was mentioned, over 40% of global land is degraded, affecting food security and climate resilience. And without large-scale restoration, our global goals and the targets associated with those will and continue to remain at risk. And the social impacts of land restoration cannot be underestimated. It provides community resilience, where it allows communities to adapt to climate change and other environmental challenges. Restoring land improves livelihoods because it allows communities to generate income and it enhances the food security for the communities. And it also fosters social inclusion involving many different parts of communities, bringing them together for a common cause. As Murali's excellently put forward the answer to this question, why involve faith communities? It's been studied that faith institutions steward about 8% of habitable land. Oftentimes, the 8% is fluctuating due to various challenges around land tenure, access to land, and so on. Faith groups also influence billions through their moral authority. They have existing community networks in all parts of the world. And also, they have a multi-generational commitment to the land and the communities in which they live. And so oftentimes the question is, why work with faith communities? Oftentimes the answer is, why not? They seem to be an obvious constituency and stakeholder in this important work. The methodology for the report that we're launching today consisted of having over 100 organizations across 24 different countries, representing 655 million people contributing to the survey. We hosted a number of stakeholder consultations at the CCD COP16 last year in Riyadh, at Climate Week also last year, and as Murali mentioned, a workshop dedicated in Bonn as well. There was also a desk review of over 100 reports, and also the report is looking at the findings from multiple perspectives, from the micro, the institutional, and the macro as well, to give us a full picture of what is happening at the grassroots. So what are some of the key findings that we are putting forward in this report? Firstly, all good news. 92% demonstrated a strong commitment to restoration activities, with 74% having active programs. But interestingly, only about less than a third, 28%, only have formal restoration policies. We found that some of the critical barriers to faith communities engaging in this work, the first and foremost is funding limitations, followed by human resource constraints, and then technical capacity gaps. We found that most projects are at a modest scale of about 200 hectares. And also, interestingly, as we look towards COP17 next year, only 24% of those who participated in our survey have accreditation with the UN CCD. And so there's a real potential to tap into the rest of those organizations to strengthen the voice within global policymaking forums. Some additional key findings and insights that we found was that faiths have significant land ownership, as was mentioned earlier, and managing ecologically important sites, many sacred sites as well, many sites within urban settings as well. The moral authority and the cultural resonance that faith communities have and their relationship to the land should not be overlooked. We also found a finding of the policy and the financial synergy, that there's a potential to align with existing frameworks and investments. So we know that within faith communities, both individual faith traditions and sometimes in a multi-faith context, there are policy and financial ways that these communities work together, how these communities fund their projects. And so oftentimes it's working in partnership with what's already existing rather than creating new apparatus. As was mentioned earlier, faiths come to a lot of their work, and specifically this work, with a multi-generational vision and perspective. And then in the case study, you'll find a number of wonderful case studies, from church forests to temple-run agroforestry to trees that are being ordained by Buddhist monks. There's a whole plethora of case studies there in the report. So what are the pathways to scale and increase impact for faith groups and land-based restoration? The first is that we have to embed faith-led restoration in national and global frameworks. Oftentimes we find that faith groups just aren't on the radar of policymakers and decision makers. So we need to make sure that faiths are front and center when it comes to global institutions and policymaking and institutions. The next is that we have found that there is significant work within individual faith traditions and across all traditions in all parts of the world. A key factor to kind of really scale this work going forward will be, how do we ensure that these faith communities work together in an interfaith spirit in order to share resources and to amplify their moral voice. As was mentioned earlier, one of the critical gaps is around technical understanding. And so, how do we share knowledge and best practice through workshops and culturally adapted training and peer-to-peer exchanges? That's also very crucial to scale the work. And then, how do we build repositories? How do we build like a database, a central resource where these models are kind of situated, and so others can come and learn from them through documentation and replication. Additional pathways to scale and impact include, will really exemplify that faith communities are really positioned to significantly advance the G20 Global Land Initiative's 2040 targets. And this requires not faith groups not just being implementers of work, which they're doing significantly at the local level, but also recognizing that faith communities have knowledge, have wisdom that they can contribute to this work. The multi-stakeholder perspective is also critically important. Faith communities not just working alone, but also working with governments, the private sector, and technical partners. And then, as was mentioned earlier, land is central to biodiversity, to climate change. And so, how do we ensure that land is recognized across all three Rio conventions in order to scale the impact? The report can be downloaded via this QR code. So I'll leave it up on the screen. If you want to bring up your phone and scan it, that will take you to the report, or you can also go to g20land.org/reports to download it. And my colleague Maria is also putting the link in the chat for you to download it. So thank you to all of you who contributed to the report through the in-person gatherings, to the online survey, to the various other consultation and meetings that we had. A big thanks to the G20 Global Land Initiative team for their support, and specifically to my colleague Tariq Al-Olaimi, who really led the work on the report for many, many months. It really is a groundbreaking report. And I know that's said often about reports, but this really is the first time that there is documentation of what faith groups are doing at the local level on land restoration. So thank you to all of you who've been involved in that. So now moving on to the rest of the program, we have a wonderful number of speakers who will be sharing what they're doing when it comes to land restoration, sharing some spiritual insights and wisdom, and how we can scale this work going forward. So I'd like to ask our first speaker today to take the floor. We have Geshe Tubten Jimpa, who is the president of the Nepal Buddhist Federation. Born in Rowaling in Nepal, which is a serene Himalayan village bordering Tibet, Jimpa's spiritual journey began with receiving sacred monastic vows from the Reverend Buddhist Master Kyabje Lampa Zopa Rinpoche. He's a fully ordained Buddhist monk and has studied Buddhist philosophy for over 22 years, ultimately earning the prestigious Geshe degree, an advanced scholarly title in Tibetan Buddhism. He is working on restoration of Buddhist environmental sites and cultural sacred education in Nepal. Geshe Jimpa advocates for non-violence and vegetarianism, and in September 2024 was elected to serve as the president of the Nepal Buddhist Federation. It is such a delight to have you with us, Geshe. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the Buddhist teachings around land restoration and some of the work you're doing. The floor is yours. Oh, we'll just ask you to unmute yourself there, Geshe.
Okay, I unmute. Okay, is that okay? Okay, thank you very much, Chairman of the sessions, and all the respected faith leaders and brothers and sisters. Firstly, I'd like to thank G20 Global Land Initiatives for allowing me to be a panelist in these sessions. And I'm Geshe Jimpa, Buddhist monk, so we all have discussed. So let me share my slides, then I go through. Is that okay? Okay, how is this? Was join the workplace. Sorry. No. What's I'm doing? Sorry, what's that? Uh, I should be going on my desktop. Oh, uh, mm, mm, stop sharing. Why I can't? Why? Uh, I'm having some issues for sharing the screen.
Maybe you can click
Uh,
on the symbol at the top, at the bottom right of PowerPoint.
okay, so maybe I close this down. Okay, okay, what? Okay, did
Yes,
do you see my,
yes, we see
it's
that.
okay?
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
sorry. Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
So I'm Geshi Jimba. So Nepal Buddhist Federation is the national umbrella organizations representing major Buddhist tradition in Nepal. So Nepal Buddhist Federations envisions the cultivations of peaceful society grounded in wisdom, ethical living, and inner transformations. So NBFs bring our visions to life by fostering the spiritual and traditional educations of Buddha's compassion and wisdom by connecting and empowering over 4,000 member monasteries across the nation. And we encourage tree growing, forest protections, and land restorations as part of our ethical actions and collective well-being. And so land tree growings and land restorations plays a very important part role in Buddhist practices as a Buddhist principle. This planet is the result of collective karma, cause contributed by all living inhabitants, and resources consumption's right is equal for all. As we human are most, we overexploited it. So as a result, the lives of many others are now in stake and dangers. So Buddhist spirituality and environment preservations have been always complemented one another. So therefore, the Nepal Buddhist Federation's one of these key actions oriented outreach to the communities, growing trees and land restorations. So trees plays a very important roles in Buddhist community, in Buddhist life. There's a spiritually, environmentally, and then of course social, economic, and it's there. So trees play a very vital role in Buddhist practice, and they hold a central role both spiritually and environmentally. To highlight in this, the Buddha himself has performed all of his most significant deeds of his life under a tree. Uh, so forestry is socially and economically important for all Nepali Buddhist communities and overall people in Nepal. So I think that's why the recent global studies published by the Gardens also highlight in Nepal as the most nature connected nations. So to to bring this our missions forward and more constructive way, the Nepal Buddhist Federations is strategically determined to advance environmental preservation missions. so to bring these missions forward. So in collaborations with WWF Nepal, the Faith Plan for Environment was launched during the World Environment Day on June 5, 2024. So with the theme of land restorations. So this is the 10-year strategic plan, and and through this plan, so we aim to revive the traditional conservations and land restoration practices. So in Nepal, especially in the Buddhist communities in the Himalayas, they have in the long the traditional practices of environmental conservations and land restoration practices, which in some places is uh, like dying away. So we, with this plan, we try to revive the traditional practices. And this plan also visions to scientifically plant 1 million trees in Nepal to contribute to the trillion tree campaign. Uh, the plans, the 10-year plan, this outlines 7 key priorities to implement it by mobilizing Nepal's Buddhist communities, especially the Sangha, the monks, the monastery communities, to promote environment educations among young Buddhist followers by updating curriculum uh, for schools run by monasteries about the land restorations and the conservations, and then also to aid conservations of mountain ecosystems using Buddhist values. So to further supports or making these missions more fruitful, so the mm, the faith plan visions of facilitating plantations of 1 million trees, the tree growing guidelines by trillion trees, which was with help of WWF and UNEF. So we are able to translate that into local languages and make it available to the all monasteries and communities. We also collaborated with one of the Nepal's predominant university, Tribhuvan University, and through this Institute of Forestry, to generate a baseline study to prepare a comprehensive scientific tea plantations plan and post-plantation support. So we will be using the same study and findings in others vulnerable areas as well as to expand the tree plantations area. So this baseline pilot project was done in one of the very vulnerable mountain area called Manang. So these baseline studies help us to identify potential plant species and identifying sources of plantations as seedling. So to further the strengthen or support these missions, so with the supports of UNEF and WWF, video linking tree plantations to Buddhism values and traditions is also prepared to encourage monastery to join hands in hand in tree plantation drive, and then the support generations of baseline. So the video is translated in the Nepali and both language, which uh, help to outreach easily to the community, uh, to extending the tree plantations drive. So these videos will be shared through all the partners or communities, so that community themselves can be encouraged to do these land restorations in their own abilities. So this is one of the, as a pilot project, community already the tree plantations has been they carried out. And this is another one of the vulnerable area where this is the monastic environment. We about 10 years ago, so we started the land restorations by planting more trees. So as you see in your right, the pictures that are already showing good results. So we like to implement uh, to hoping to bring similar kind of outcomes in other areas. So one of the key initiations that the Nepal Buddhist Federation is taking in Nepal is we 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 want to bring these awarenesses, environmental awarenesses, educations in all the communities. So uh, in land restoration initiative campaign. So this has encompassed in all spiritual and traditional occasional gathering. So Buddhists, the masters or the Buddhist leaders, they are taking this as mandatory steps while they're preaching the spirituality. So they encompasses the environmental awarenesses and land restorations, educations, this alongside with their spiritual preaching. So these the all the Buddhist leaders or the preachers masters, they have taken that as a very mandatory in their spiritual journey. So this is one of the example that recently we have conducted. So similar kind of the practices is doing across the country. So finally, as the path forward, so we are taking these more initiatives like promote large-scale tree plantation drive with active involvement in certain operationalized Lama-led environmental subcommittees. So we are organizing different subcommittees in different regions to bring the plan forward. So strengthening network among Buddhist communities, research institutes, and sharing data and sharing the learning experiences, and also fostering partnership with government and civil society. So as in Nepal now, there's a local government who are mostly uh, uh, in, working at the very grassroots level. So we're extending our ties closely with those governments, local governments and groups and different authorities of different sections. So to doing this forward. So this is how we were planning. We are working to bring our initiatives in the grounds. So I think that's it. Finally, I like to close my presentations with the most influential aspirations of Bodhisattva attitudes that the Buddhist followers reflect on in their life, their daily life. As earth, water, fire, and winds, and the shelter of trees with their unobstructed natural qualities, give the greatest benefits to all beings. May I too become most beneficial to them all. May all these elements always be blessed by all the Buddhas, so their natural qualities remain forever free and beneficial. Thank you. Okay.
Geshe Jimpa, thank you for those really beautiful remarks and really sharing the work that your community is doing, has been doing for a number of years now. And critically, the path forward, the subcommittees, the way you're trying to move this work forward. is really inspiring. And thank you for the beautiful prayer at the end as well to really kind of really synthesize your perspective on this work. So thank you so much.
Thank
Um,
you.
Thank you. Maria, I'm wondering if we can end Jimpa's share screen so we can move to the next speaker. Okay, I can stop it there. Okay, great. So now I'd like to move to our next speaker, Cameron Shazad, who is the author of Al-Mizan, which is a covenant for the earth, a major contribution to Islamic thought on ecological responsibility and the protection of our shared planet. He is a faith-inspired grassroots environmental activist and social justice advocate. He serves on the Multi-Faith Advisory Council to the UN Interagency Task Force on Religion and Sustainable Development. He's recognized in the ENDS report Power List as one of the UK's top 100 most impactful environmental professionals. Cameron is also a chartered environmentalist and a full member of the Institute for Sustainability and Environmental Professionals. Cameron, it's a joy to have you with us today. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gopal. Thank you for inviting me and everyone else. I have to admit, I can't take credit for Al-Mizan. I'm just one of a number of authors. And it has been a pleasure contributing to Al-Mizan. For those of you who don't know Al-Mizan, the Covenant for the Earth is what we like to refer to as the sibling document to Pope Francis is Laudato Si. It's a powerful document created by Muslim scholars, environmental experts, community leaders from across the world. It brings together Quranic teachings, it brings together prophetic guidance and Islamic tradition to help us understand today's environmental crisis. And one of the central themes in Al-Mizan is our relationship with the land, how we've treated it, what's been harmed, and what our faith calls us to do to restore and protect it. And one of the beauties of the Al-Mizan document is that it begins by reminding us that the land isn't just dirt or territory. Land is something sacred gifted by God, which is meant for all living beings on this earth. The Holy Quran describes the earth as a home prepared for every creature. So when we walk on it, when we build on it, or when we farm on it, we're essentially engaging with a sign of God. And that comes with responsibility. And as humans, we've been trusted with the role of stewards, or in the Islamic term, a Khalifa. And that means that we're accountable for the condition of the land around us. But more importantly, Al-Mizan doesn't shy away from the hard truth. It very clearly tells us that we haven't lived up to that sacred trust, that human activity has damaged the earth on a massive scale. We've drained the soil of its life, we've polluted water, we've destroyed habitats, and disrupted natural rhythms. The Holy Quran itself describes this as fasad fil ard, corruption on the land and the sea. And Al-Mizan frames it as a moral and spiritual challenge as well as an environmental one. And so in response, the Al-Mizan Covenant also gives us hope and it gives us direction. It calls us to heal the land, to bring back places that have been harmed. It reminds us of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him's teachings that whoever revives lifeless land receives blessings and rewards. And even the animals that feed there bring blessings to the one who restored it. And that reminds us that caring for the earth should really be an act of compassion, an act of charity, and ultimately an act of worship. The document also points to the rich Muslim history of protecting nature. It speaks about the Himma system, and a Himma system is a community managed areas that have safeguarded forests and pastures and wildlife. It also describes harem zones, Again, they are protective buffers around water sources to keep them clean and thriving. And Al Mizan also highlights the role of the Awqaf, in other words, land endowments which are dedicated to public good, which today should really be supporting conservation, habitat protection, and promoting rewilding schemes. It also encourages us to bring back these ideas back into modern ways. The way we should be designing our homes, our farms, and cities so that they work with nature. How using local plants, supporting local food systems, and avoiding practices that harm the land. Um, and it reminds us that this work really belongs to everybody, and that includes individuals, communities, and governments. They all have a role in protecting the land we depend on. Um, so I just want to share a very quick practical example um, of the Children's Eco Village. This is an example from a project in Tanzania. And the Children's Eco Village in Tanzania, it's created by an organization called Islamic Help. It's a place where spiritual values, local leadership, and strong community partnership come together. And it's built on a vision of caring for people and the land in a way that honors faith and empowers the community itself. And the project weaves together two essential commitments. Number one, supporting orphaned and vulnerable children with love and dignity. And secondly, protecting the environment on which they depend. And it's this beautiful combined model that cares for young lives while also caring for the earth at the same time. And some of the projects, I mean, this is a very small snapshot, is where there's work hand in hand with local staff and villagers. And the organization has helped revive a dry river and stream that had been barren for 50 years. And that water source is now flowing again and providing life sustaining support to more than 30 surrounding villages. Um, and then the fresh water that has been revived has now opened the door for sustainable farming at the eco village, where staff now use permaculture and agroforestry techniques to strengthen food security. It's a very practical and resilient approach that nurtures both the land and the community. And finally, just want to end. So this really is the heart of what Al Mizan's message is. Caring for the land is part of our faith. Protecting and restoring it is how we honor God's signs, how we keep our covenant with the Creator, and ensuring that all future generations inherit a world that's alive, healthy, and beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cameron, for those beautiful words and that wonderful case study as well. I was touched by some of the Quranic teachings you shared around the importance of, and I made a note over here, the importance of restoring lifeless land and how even the animals benefit from that. So thank you all for that, and please feel free to put the link in the chat to Al Mizan because I'm sure the participants would love to read that. Now I'd like to ask our next speaker, Dr. Ananya S. Rao, who's a senior scientist at Forests by Heartfulness. She has a PhD from the Center for Atmospheric and Oceanic Studies at the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, India. She has extensively traveled to different forest ecosystems across India and has always been passionate about environmental conservation. Having been a witness to shrinking forest ecosystems across the country and the blatant effects of climate change on the life of people from all walks of life, she's doing her part to alleviate the situation in any way possible. She currently serves as the lead for climate adaptation at UNDP India, which is based at Niti Aayog. And she's also a senior scientist with Forests for Heartfulness, the greening initiative of the Heartfulness Institute, a devoted heartfulness meditation practitioner and trainer. She has been practicing heartfulness meditation since 2007. Ananya, it's great to have you with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Gopal, for such a lovely introduction. And Good. Hello to everybody. I think being the scientist that I am, I'm gonna straight away jump into the presentation mode and share a few slides with you. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
But not on presentation mode, right? Hold on. I don't think I can get it into presentation mode, but can you see the first slide, right?
Yeah, you may want to zoom out a little bit because we're missing the sides, but yeah, that's good.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so about the Heartfulness Institute itself, it's a nonprofit organization. I think at the center of it all is the meditation practice, and it's a heart-based meditation, as the name suggests. And with it comes the relaxation and other practices as well, which are all offered for free of charge from trainers like me. And we have more than 16,000 plus certified trainers across the world. We have a presence in over 160, and we have reached more than 40 million people right now. Yeah, so practitioners across the world as well. So that is the Heartfulness Institute, and our focus areas vary too many. So there's environment is of course one huge part of it, education, health and wellness, sports activities. Just give me a second. I'll do, yeah, and of course research as well. So today we'll be focusing on the environment aspect of things, that and the mega greening initiative of the Heartfulness Institute is called Forests by Heartfulness. It's a mega greening initiative, and where the end goal is to create spaces where humans can coexist with nature. And this is done in collaboration with global communities, of course. The presence in 160 countries definitely helps that. Native endangered species.
Oh, Ananya, I think the microphone is cutting in and out. It may be a connection issue. You want to try again?
Am I audible now?
Yeah, now you are. It cuts out a couple of times, but yeah, let's keep going and see
Okay,
how.
I'll try getting in closer so that you can hear me better. Yeah, yeah. It's clear now, right? Okay, okay. So our initiative focuses on three aspects of the green as well. So that's the carbon part of it, the water, and the ecosystem. So when we say carbon, it focuses more on the land, how to enrich the land before the plantation activities are taken into account itself. And these are the numbers. So we have more than 80 plus endangered species that we have curated, 3 million saplings plus planted till date, more than 1 lakh tons of CO2 that has been offset through all these measures. And when we move to the water part of it, which also forms a major part of our restoration efforts, we have restored 4 lakes, which has now increased in number, but also the water restoration itself is one of the first efforts that's considered before we move into the plantation part of it. So the watershed development, rainwater harvesting, all of it becomes a part of the water initiative. And then, of course, the ecosystem. Ecosystem itself involves biodiversity conservation, which happens naturally through the native species that are planted. We have managed to afforest more than 10,000 plus acres. 10,000 plus local farmers. Of course, the communities are never left behind. 10,000 plus local farmers, MSMEs, indigenous community members that have been supported through not just skill development, but also economic, financial support and employment generation that has happened through these afforestation projects. And so there are various categories in which we take up the greening. One is, of course, the compliance forestation, where the compensatory afforestation or the NPV compliance, all of that is considered, and we take it up for different companies and organizations. The second is, of course, the achieving carbon neutrality, and one of the biggest projects that we have recently successfully executed has been the Adani Taranga Hill restoration, where it has been the largest restoration using water guns. So it has been the largest area that has been restored through just the use of water guns. Water guns are these, large sprinklers which are 100 feet high, and they cover almost more than an acre or more than 2-3 acres as well, depending on the height of the water guns. So this has been the largest project that's been taken up through the water guns. And of course, then we also have another vertical where we look at CSR driven initiatives, where we have had more than 2,000 acres that has been greened up in the Madhya Pradesh. It's one of the central states in India, the largest state. And here, multiple projects have been given to us on a smaller scale as well. But yeah, the highlight of 24-25 financial year 24-25 have been these areas which have been taken up by different organizations, funded by different organizations and executed by us. Some of the highlights have also been the Sabarmati, the Gandhi Ashram in Ahmedabad. We have had the Jamnagar projects. We have had Valley School in Bangalore, the rejuvenation of water lake there as well, and many, many more. I will not go into too many details, but yeah, these are the key collaborations that we have had. We are now a member of the IUCN as well, and we are, of course, affiliated with other UN institutes too. And this has all come about because of the holistic approach, I would say, to restoration, which, as mentioned, looks at the soil rejuvenation as one part of it, water as another aspect, and thirdly, looking at native species. And the first square that you see on the left shows you the tree translocation, which also is something that we have achieved success in and achieved expertise in. So which is a very difficult endeavor to take up. A successful tree plantation is always hard, and we have managed to translocate and transplant more than 1,200 trees across India, which had been marked for felling. We have nurseries across the country in more than 18 locations, which house native endangered species. And these native endangered species are propagated in our in-house tree conservation center or the tissue culture lab. Some of these species are so rare and endangered that they don't have protocols for propagation itself. And the tissue culture lab is coming up with these new protocols to regenerate them, propagate them, and grow them in large numbers so that they are brought out of the brink of extinction. So some of the success stories I'll be subsequently sharing. These are a few photographs of how the land looked like before. This is the Shivgarh, the Madhya Pradesh 2,000 acres that I was talking about. Please notice the time period, 2023, and this is how it looked like within a year, 2024, with all the water conservation, water catchment areas, the check dams that were created. This is how it looks like within a year. And so this is one of the places where the success was clearly documented through satellite images and ground-based measurement systems, the dams. Yeah, and this is the afforestation that has happened at the Taranga Hill, another success story with the rain guns. I'm just going to scroll through quickly to show you how the photographs, mainly the photographs, give you an idea of how the land really has transformed. So approximately, sorry, let me just go through the phase 1 of it phase 2 has also been completed. So 50 acres in phase 1 and 350 hectares, sorry, my bad, in phase 2. 7,54,000 plants have been planted, including 1,50,000 sandalwood trees. And we have more than 6 crore liter water management. And in phase 3, which is now in progress, we have more than 13 lakh saplings that have been envisioned and 14,000, 1 lakh, 1,450 hectares of the hill remaining to be greened, which is going to happen in the next. And so it is not just the greening, but we also look at the aftercare. So we focus on taking care of the plantation for at least a minimum of 3 years after the plantation is done. And this is again another landscape that has greened up. Now I'm mindful of the time given to me, but I'm gonna quickly go
Yeah.
through
Ananya,
another.
I'm just
Yeah,
conscious of time, Ananya, because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
this is really amazing, and
I know, I know. I will
we do
keep
have,
it short.
yeah, we have some other speakers. I'm wondering if you can just like if there's any like final one or two slides,
Yes,
because yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. Just 1 or 2 slides. Yeah, just hold on. So I'm going to skip through all this and come to this is the main highlight. Like why is the Heartfulness Institute involved with the greening? So we have our World Heartfulness guide Daji who talks about how a unique perspective on the greening. He says that these trees are going to be here much longer than we humans are going to be, you and me at least. And they not just are going to remain for long, but they also carry our signature. They carry our vibrations, the good vibrations, what we call transmission as well. So they are like vibrational banks. And they re emit this good vibration, positive vibration into the environment for our own benefit, for the benefit of our children. So anytime anybody sits under these trees, you feel better, you feel more rejuvenated and more positive. And that is because of this retransmission of this positive energy to the environment. And not just this is one. The second being a mango tree. What do we give it? We give it fodder, we give it a manure. And what does it give us? It gives us sweet mango fruits. And that is something that is nothing short of a miracle. So what it takes versus what it gives us so much more than what it takes. So to become something close to what nature is the end goal, and that can only be achieved through an inner transformation or a connecting better to the heart. So heartfulness is religion agnostic, of course, and we focus mainly on achieving a purer state of consciousness, a deeper connect within one's own self, which in turn builds a deeper connect to the environment and everything else around us. So with this, I would like to stop my presentation. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ananya. That's really beautiful. Thank you for those beautiful words of wisdom at the end, and really the amazing work that Heartfulness is doing all across India. And if that presentation, if it is possible to share it, feel free to put it in the chat or email it to us, and we'll send it out to all the registered participants afterwards.
Thank you.
Yeah. So much rich information on this session so far. So thank you all. I will ask for our remaining speakers because we are getting a bit crunched for time. So if you can keep to your allotted time, that'd be really great. So we can get through all the presentations. That'd be really helpful. Our next speaker is Pastor Fulco Herio from Tanzania, and he is the secretary of the Ruvuma Region Christian Council of Tanzania. Thank you, Pastor Fulco, for stepping in last minute. We had planned for Edmund to be here, but he had a personal emergency he had to attend to. So, Pastor Fulco, thank you for being with us, and keen to hear the work you're doing and the spiritual impetus for that. So, Fulco, the floor is yours. We'll just ask you to unmute yourself there if you can. Oh, Pastor Fulco, we just need to unmute you so that we can hear you. I'm not sure if you can hear. I'm not sure if you can hear us. We unfortunately are not able to hear you. If you press the microphone button on the screen, that should hopefully unmute you so we can hear you. Yes.
Yes, now you hear
Yes,
me?
now we hear you loud and clear. Thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to be involved in this very, very important discussion about restoration. I would like also to give my special thanks to WWF, who have been doing a lot to the faith-based restoration program in Tanzania, especially in the Ruvuma region. We have done a lot by 2 past years, and we have been supported capacity building to all Christian and Muslims on environmental restoration. And I've been participating fully, first in organizing church and Muslim or Islamic groups, make sure that they are fully involved in restoration. I would like to go directly to what we have done since the program started. And I'm sorry that I'm not going to make presentation as my fellows have done, but rather I will just speak. Firstly, we have tried to help farmers. Farmers that they have to decrease the rate of cutting trees. That means deforestation. We tried to go through churches and villages and communities and make them aware the importance of creation. God made us, put us in nature, and that we are responsible to keep the nature. We are all responsible to keep the nature. So we came together to agreement that in our preaching, we should also involve our preachings in making the believers aware, as the Holy Book speaks. That means Islamic, Muslims, and Christians believe that God wants us to keep the nature, wants us to keep the sources of water, to keep the forests, to keep the animals, to keep everything around us which God created us for us. Also, it has been a good time for us to come together, to come together. For instance, women could sit together and discuss, make the difference between 10 years ago and now. How was the environment of 10 years ago, and how is it now? We use the platform to help women during the agricultural activities. They have to care for trees. They have to care for plants. They should not cut down trees. They should not cut down plants found in their farms. Also, youth in their activities. We used to organize youth clubs. We have youth clubs, Christian youth clubs, Muslim youth clubs, which we use that platform of youth is to help them maintain and restore the environment. Also, we made union of churches and union of mosques, pastors and sheikhs come together and discuss about environmental restoration. By doing so, we have managed by last year, 2024, to plant trees about 400 hectares. And the trees we planted is alive for about 80% are growing well. And it has shown a great changes quite different from 3 years ago. Of course, we are developing. And this time also we have now also decided to go through water sources. We try to educate communities not to start any activities to water sources. Instead, we are communicating, and we are having platform with government authorities, government technical teams, to have friendly trees and friendly activities that cannot accelerate the rate of environmental destruction. Furthermore, we are going to Bible schools. We reach Bible schools to enrich their syllabus, Pastors, when they are taken to service, they have to consider also one part of their services, one part that they have to be engaged in the community, to help the community create awareness of keeping the environment, planting trees, and keep the nature. We also made it practically when visiting about 10 Bible college schools, about through Islamic schools called the madrasa, about 5 secondary schools belonging to Christian churches, and we are looking forward to go furthermore. And we really appreciate all capacity building done by WWF as of now. Even in our gatherings, for instance, if there is send-off ceremony, if there is marriage ceremony, if there is birthday ceremony, instead of giving a gift, a box of a cloth or a box of what I could say, a box of books, or during the graduation, in order to offer, instead of offering them maybe send for building a new class, we go there, we ask them, we offer them trees. During graduation, we supply trees. During birthday, we give a friend a tree to grow. During maybe wedding ceremony, we are encouraging. Instead of going with money, you buy a tree from nursery, you send as a gift. All in all, is encouraging the community how to restore our environment. We also go to
Pastor Fulco,
involving.
if I can ask you just to wrap up, because we need to get to the other speakers. So I'm just wondering if you can just 30 more seconds before we move on. If you just have 30 more seconds.
Yeah, we also go to the group of people who are dealing with the animal keepers. We educate them to have a little number of cattle so that they cannot keep on distracting the environment. Instead, they should have a few manageable and which cannot distract the environment. Thank you very much. I'm happy also to hear from my fellows.
Thank you so much, Pastor Fulco. What such wonderful work you're doing, and I'm sorry we don't have more time to hear in more detail. And thank you for stepping in last minute. As I said, we were planning for having Edmund here, but thank you, Pastor Fulco, for stepping in. Now we're going to move to our final 3 speakers for today. As we are having a bit of a crunch on the time, we will try to have some Q&A at the end. But if we're not able to, if you put your questions in the Q&A feature or in the chat, we will get back to all the questions by email afterwards if we're not able to address them here today on the call. So I'll ask my next fellow speakers if we can try and keep to time. That'd be great. And for the next 3 speakers, really we want to hear your reflections on what you've heard right now, and specifically how we can mobilize and continue this momentum leading up to COP17 in Mongolia next year. And so I'm delighted to introduce our next speaker, Aneta Lodge, who is the UNCCD focal point for the Brahma Kumaris. Aneta is a very dear friend and a seasoned professional with a unique blend of experience in sustainability, renewable energy, and corporate leadership and spirituality. She serves as the director of the Brahma Kumaris in Poland, wherein she encourages and supports the spiritual empowerment of individuals and groups. Aneta, the floor is yours.
Hello, thank you very much, Gopal. Thank you for having us here. Greetings of peace to all my sisters and brothers. And first of all, I would like to express my deep appreciation for the stocktake on faith engagement in land restoration and on everything what I have heard today. It is such a rich insight and there are so many inspiring ideas for collaboration. So yes, I'm very hopeful that we can take some of them at least, forward, and I see a lot of synergies that we can actually explore. The Brahma Kumaris have been accredited to the UNCCD since 2019. So we have been to 3 COPs already in Delhi, Abidjan, Riyadh, and now in Ulaanbaatar. We are getting ready for COP17 in Mongolia. And actually, we were one of the early faith-based actors in a very vibrant CSO community. So since the beginning, we tried to learn as much as possible how we can contribute, and we have been a quite active contributor since 2019. So just based on our experience of raising awareness on ethics and values, how important it is in the process, the advocacy that we have been doing, the knowledge sharing, regular meditation sessions, and building network of friends of the land. I think these are some good foundations that we can utilize now also for preparation in Ulaanbaatar. And we have been doing this through many different ways that UNCCD is offering actually. UNCCD and now also G20 Land Initiative. So it's possible to do different interventions in terms of contribution to the negotiations, and we have been doing this on behalf of the CSO constituency. Then there are so many side events, official side events, but also side events offered by different pavilions. Like last year, so many by, again, G20 Land Initiative in Land Restoration Pavilion. And then in UNCCD, there is something very unique, what is called open dialogue session, which is a dialogue between the CSO and the parties who are represented there at the convention COP. And then we were also hosting pavilions. In Delhi, we had our own pavilion. In Riyadh, you may remember, we had a co-hosted pavilion with Sainesa. So I think this is also something what we can consider. And then regular meditations. We had regular daily meditations, both in blue zone and in green zone. Again, wonderful opportunity. And then all these informal gatherings that are possible outside of COP. So some practical ideas what we can do in Mongolia and before Mongolia. I think the first thing which would be very good is to create a platform where we, different FBOs, can meet and prepare for COP17. So we can build the mutual understanding, we can understand each other, we can align with the agenda of UNCCD, and we can shape our joint interface inputs. We could also explore different opportunities for specific interface projects. Already what I've heard today, there are so many opportunities where I can see the contribution also of the Brahma Kumaris, where I can see that we can learn and share and inspire each other. Then I think we could have a collaborative social media campaign leading to COP17. So we could highlight the faith-based efforts in land restoration, and we could inspire others to do it also. And what I see as opportunity is to create so-called maybe faith youth restoration working group. Because in UNCCD, the youth caucus is very active. So I can see the opportunity for young people of faith also to contribute there, to get empowered and to get maybe more active in land restoration area. And another area where I'm also quite eager to work on is women, faith, and land restoration. So I'm not going to go into details, but I think it's also a nice opportunity we can utilize. So at COP17, I think we could aim also at having a faith-inspired pavilion where we can create a space for reflection, for meditation, for prayer, but also for different side events and networking opportunities. And one more thing that I would like to propose, just in this limited time that I want to utilize, is to organize interfaith Talanoa dialogue. This is something what we have been doing at other multilateral fora, and this was very effective always. So it's a space where we can have open, honest dialogue, where we can share ideas, we can come with joint ideas, solutions, and we can build really nice foundation for cooperation in the future. So yeah, Brahma Kumaris, actually we believe that restoration of land and restoration of regenerative farming, everything starts within. So this is what we do and what we offer, because whatever happens inside it happens only outside. So when we align with our core values, with clarity, with compassion, with purpose, then our actions naturally will actually contribute to healing the world. And then also our collaboration will be very smooth and easy. So because we will have shared intention, shared values, and shared vision. So yes, we are very much looking forward to co-creating a very meaningful, effective, and also benevolent COP17 and beyond. Thank you very much. Looking forward to further work together.
Thank you so much, Annetta, for all the wonderful suggestions, the platform for collaboration, the social media campaign, the youth focus, the women focus, all sounds wonderful. And we look forward from the G20 GLI to working with you to realize those. Now I'd like to move on to our next speaker, Chantal Elkin, who is the head of the Beliefs and Values Program at WWF, which engages with religious and spiritual partners in conservation. From 2018 to 2022, she was the president of the Society for Conservation Biology's Religion and Conservation Working Group. Chantal was also formerly the director of the Wildlife and Forest Program at the British-based NGO, the Alliance of Religions and Conservation. Chantal, it's great to have you with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Gopal, and it's a true pleasure to be here with all of you today. And a special thank you to the G20 for bringing us all together. So yes, the World Wildlife Fund, WWF, is an environmental organization. We work in over 100 countries, and many of those countries have very high levels of land degradation. But there are also countries where faith plays such a strong role in decision making, especially decision making around land and nature. So we've been over the years developing more and more partnerships with multi-faith actors to engage more deeply with the communities where we work, with whom we work, and we recognize that it's not just science, but as you've all been saying, it's people's deeply held beliefs and values that can really impact and transform our relationship with nature and how we treat nature. And that's why you, as the holders of the world's important faith traditions and wisdom, are so important in both bringing an inner awareness about our connection to the land, which is so often broken, and also in very practical ways, restoring the lands that you steward and care for. So I know my time is short, so I just want to go over a few ways that we've been specifically engaging with faith actors on land restoration. About 4 years ago, we started to conduct a bit of research that was really astounding when we discovered and realized what you all probably know already, is that faith communities around the world have been planting literally hundreds of millions of trees. And in our research, we also found with every faith group that we talked to that there was a desire for more capacity building and training on scientific ways to go about tree growing so that trees would really survive and thrive. And also that soils upon which, have become so depleted, that there was interest in learning about sustainable agriculture and how to enrich the soils to provide for local livelihoods. So as a result of our research, we took a very practical approach and thought, okay, a good next step is to develop some practical tools to support the faith world in restoration. And so we developed a faith tree growing guide with the UN Environment Program Faith for Earth Coalition and with our Trillion Trees program. And it's been translated into 6 languages, and we've used it in trainings with faith actors around the world, and it's going to be introduced tomorrow in the master class. So we hope that you can all come to that. A second thing that we did was we launched a website, and we can put the link in the chat, called the Faith and Nature Hub. And we have a whole space on there on faith and restoration where you can find the faith nature, the tree growing guide. You can find lots of inspiring stories of faith-led restoration. You can find lots of resources to help you develop and launch a restoration initiative. So I urge you to go there and, access those resources and also send us your stories of your restoration projects because we'd love to share it on that platform. And the third thing that we did was we launched a series of on-the-ground partnerships with faith actors around restoration. And you've heard from our esteemed partners from Nepal and Tanzania, two examples of those projects. And they've been incredible in terms of demonstrating how science and spirituality can really come together to accelerate restoration. And we've had a lot of great learnings through those kinds of partnerships. So what I would say is let's just keep collaborating as we move towards COP17. I urge you to join forces in your local areas with multi-faith groups, maybe through interfaith platforms and through technical partners like conservation organizations and government agencies who can bring different strengths into a network of restoration, and you can all benefit from each other and learn from each other. And then secondly, I would say at the international level, let's keep coming together periodically to share our stories in shared spaces like this, because we know that when we connect to something that's bigger than our individual actions, to this global movement on restoration, that we feel so much more empowered and enthusiastic and inspired. So I would say a really great way to do that is to share your stories of your restoration initiatives that are so unique, both on the conservation websites like the UN websites or our website at WWF, but also to use your really incredible faith communications networks like your social media channels or your celebration days or your faith media radio channels to inspire people to join the movement. So, Gopal, I think I'll leave it there, but it's a real pleasure to be here with all of you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Chantal, for sharing some of the work you're doing and really the wonderful leadership of WWF Beliefs and Values Initiative in this space and those really solid examples you gave of how we can scale up collaboration leading up to COP17 next year. So thank you for that. We're now moving on to our final speaker, and I'll just say, unfortunately, we will not have time for Q&A during the session. So please, if you have questions, put them in the chat, and then we will get to them by email after the session. But our final speaker is Charles McNeill, who is a senior advisor to the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative. He has been a leader in the UN for over 30 years, building innovative multi-sector partnerships to address the biodiversity and climate crisis. He most recently served as the Senior Advisor on Forests and Climate for the UN Environment Programme, overseeing the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative, an international alliance bringing faith-based leadership to local and global efforts to end tropical deforestation. Previously, Dr. McNeill managed UNDP's work on forests and climate, biodiversity, and empowering Indigenous peoples. He founded and led catalytic global initiatives, including the UN RED Programme, the Equator Initiative, and the New York Declaration on Forests. Dr. McNeill received his PhD in genetics with a focus on conservation biology from the University of California at Davis. He's also a very dear friend and trusted advisor to much of the work we're doing around mobilizing faith groups on land restoration. So we're delighted to have you with us, Charles. And no pressure, but you are now our final speaker. So please take it away, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gopal, and I've really enjoyed this event immensely. I focused my 30 years with the United Nations on implementing the Rio Conventions on climate, biodiversity, and land, and I've come to understand how land degradation is literally undermining the Earth's capacity to sustain humanity. And so I welcome this effort by the Global Land Initiative, the G20 Global Land Initiative, to focus on the Desertification Convention at this critical time. And I'm really impressed with the stock take report, and thank you for preparing that. From my own experience over the past 8 years, bringing into existence the Interfaith Rainforest Initiative, I agree there's enormous potential, enormous scope for faith and interfaith action on land restoration. Let's remember that the 3 Rio Conventions address 3 crises: climate, biodiversity, and land degradation. But these 3 issues are interconnected, and interconnected crises require interconnected solutions. And that's why it's so important for the conventions to work together, and so important for faiths to support the Desertification Convention, and not only focus on the climate and biodiversity conventions, which have so far received so much more political and public attention and support. Today, we've heard that faiths are already strong actors in the land issue, and I see an even greater potential role going forward. Solutions to global environmental problems like land degradation are well known. It comes down to public policies, meaning regulation, enforcement, and incentives, as well as individual action, and faiths can certainly help with this. I've observed that individual faiths can accomplish a lot, but as the Stocktake report concluded, there may be an additional contribution made possible when faiths come together to join forces on issues and bring greater resources, constituencies, political influence, and impact. I want to conclude by offering 4 land-related topics for faith communities to consider addressing for COP17 and beyond. I think that if faith communities do this, it'll make an enormous difference. The 4 topics are transforming the food system. The just released Eat Lancet 2.0 report frames today's food system as the largest driver of global land degradation, but also one of the most powerful potential levers for positive change we have. To address the land crisis, the report calls for a global shift to mostly plant-based diets. Number 2, major cuts in food waste. And number 3, a rapid adoption of sustainable low-emission farming. It urges redirecting subsidies and investments towards healthy, equitable food systems that stay within planetary boundaries. Faiths can help a lot with these interventions. Number 2, redirecting environmentally harmful subsidies. At last year's COP in Riyadh, COP16, the UNCCD's financial needs assessment report stated that we need at least $1 billion a day to meet the land restoration goals. But we also learned at COP last year from the World Bank that in agriculture alone, direct government subsidies of more than $2 billion a day are driving the excessive use of fertilizers that degrade soil and water and harm human health. So we have enough money, but it's going to the wrong places because we're paying more to destroy land than to restore it. So faith communities can help a lot to redirect the literally trillions of dollars in perverse subsidies that are going to agriculture, fossil fuels, forests, fisheries, and water to actually destroy the environment rather than protect it. Number 3, phasing out fossil fuels. This must be job number 1. And unfortunately, agreement was not reached last week at the climate COP30 in Brazil on a roadmap to phase out fossil fuels, which are the source of 75 to 80% of all greenhouse gas emissions. This cause needs the strongest possible support from faith communities. And number 4, and finally, on counteracting disinformation and misinformation. As we all know, one of the forces driving the climate crisis is the propagation of climate disinformation, misguiding people, eroding public trust in science and rational policy. It is flooding the channels of debate, making it harder for citizens everywhere to understand and act effectively. I believe that religious leaders working across traditions are uniquely positioned to properly connect science with faith and push back against disinformation and the polarization it creates. To conclude, I believe that engagement in these 4 issues by faith communities on the land restoration agenda for COP17 and beyond could have a profoundly positive impact. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charles. You didn't disappoint. You really brought it home there for us. Thank you for really highlighting some of the key policy areas that you believe faith communities should really focus on. That's very, very helpful as we start framing and strategizing how we collaborate, leading towards COP17 next year. As I mentioned, we are unfortunately a little bit over time now, so unfortunately we won't be able to get to any of the questions in the Q&A. But if you do have questions for any of our speakers, please put them in the Q&A now. We will capture them and then we'll share them with our speakers and we'll get answers to you in the coming days. I just want to thank everyone, all our speakers for being with us today. It's been a really wonderful program. I'd like to really thank Geshe Jimpa, Cameron Shazad, Ananya Rao, Pastor Fulco, Annetta Lodge, Chantal Elkin, and of course, Charles McNeil for all of your contributions today and all the work you have done and have been doing for many years to really show that faith communities are not just have the spiritual wisdom, but also have the practical skills and technical ability to really foster this global movement around land restoration. So thank you all so much for your contributions today. Want to wrap up by just sharing again that tomorrow we have a masterclass where this will be led by Chantel Elkin from WWF Beliefs and Values and her colleagues at Trillion Trees to really go into the tools, the frameworks, the tips and the tricks for how to start and scale your land restoration project. So please, if you haven't registered for that, that is tomorrow, and the link will be coming in the chat. So please do register for that. Please stay connected with us at the G20 Global Land Initiative. This program has been going on now for 2 years around faith engagement, and we hope to continue that as our director Murali mentioned at the top of the call. Next year, as we've been talking about, COP17 is taking place in Mongolia, I believe in August. And so as we found in our stocktake report, only 24% of the hundreds of organizations that participated in the stocktake report have accreditation to the UN CCD. So please, if you are not accredited to the CCD, please do engage in that process, because the more we are there, the more we make our voice heard and the more we can influence policy in the ways that Charles was outlining. So please, and again, that link will be coming in the chat as well for the accreditation process. And we'll also be sending that out by email to all of you. Thank you once again to all of our speakers. It's been a wonderfully rich conversation. Thank you to everyone at the G20 Global Land Initiative behind the scenes, from Tarek to Joanne, to Maria, to Murali, and everyone else who have made this session possible and the launch of our report. And we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow for the masterclass session. Thank you very much. Goodbye.